Hi everybody, Dr. Bingham here at Compass Chiropractic, and this is part 3 of our series on knee pain. So part 1 we talked about the ankle and how having lack of mobility in the ankle can affect the knee. Our second video we talked about hip stability and how that can affect the knee as well. Today we're going to be talking about a muscle called the rectus or rectus femoris. It travels from the front part of your hip to right below the kneecap. And as it travels over, if that muscle's tight, what it's going to do is actually put pressure on that kneecap so that it rubs more over the knee. Now we've got cartilage that sits underneath that kneecap, and if that's constantly getting rubbed, it's going to wear down that cartilage and eventually cause pain. Now this muscle's tight in a lot of people. One reason is when we sit, we're tightening this up, we're actually putting pressure on the knee when we do that. Then we get up and walk and run, that's grinding over that top part of the knee. So they call that chondromalacia patella, fancy word that basically just means that that area is getting rubbed down, too much pressure on that muscle. So how do you know if you have a tight muscle, a tight rectus? One of the tests that we use here in the office, and you can do this at home, if you have a higher bed, preferably something that's not too soft. We're gonna, let's say for example, for the video, we're gonna be looking at my right leg here. What you do with this, you wanna grab your knee, and as you lay back here, you're gonna bring your knee in. What you wanna do with this one, you wanna make sure you're not letting your back arch. So you're gonna really pull up here, and then this leg is just gonna hang. So you're gonna let this go. Now as we do this, if you see your leg being out like this, that means that that muscle's tight. We should be pretty close to about a 90. I'm not a great model for this because that muscle's pretty tight at me, so you can see that I've got a little bit out there. So if you see that you've gone beyond 90 and your foot tends to kind of rest out like this, that means that muscle, that rectus we're talking about, is tight. So we're going to go over how to stretch that next. We're going to come over here. This is a pretty common stretch, but there's a little modification that we need to do to it to make sure we get the right muscle. So we're going to want to feel this. You're going to feel this across the front part of your thigh, like this. And to do this, we're going to get into a 90-90 position like this. And we're going to start to lean forward a little bit, but what we need to do to make sure we get this rectus muscle, because of where it attaches, we need to actually take the hips and tuck them backwards. When we do that, it's almost like an animal tucking its tail. You should start to feel more of a pull right to the front part. In that position, then we can stretch a little bit farther forward. We shouldn't have to go very far before we feel a stretch. Ease into this, hold this 15, 20 seconds, come back. You do that again, make sure you tuck, lean forward, feel that tension right across the front part of the quad. Now, if you're feeling it more about kind of where your pocket is, you might be stretching your psoas a little bit more. You might need to tuck a little bit more. It takes a little bit to figure out how to do that, but if you're doing it right, like I said, you should feel that more across the front part of the quad there. Now, the other thing you can do is using a foam roller. I will warn you, this is usually pretty tender. So we'll take this, and this one's pretty straightforward. You can do 2 at one time, which helps to take some of the pressure off. If you want to get a little bit more pressure, you can always take this other leg, sit it on top, roll across here. And doing this over the stretching that we showed, the benefit of that is if you're getting a lot of pain at the attachment point down here, if we stretch it, sometimes it can irritate that a little bit. The foam roller is a good way to stretch out that muscle without putting the pressure on the attachment point. All right, so that's part 3. So that is the rectus muscle we talked about that starts from here, goes over the kneecap. The test that we did is called the Thomas test. And you can look this up on YouTube. There's a bunch of people that have videos on how to do that and what you should be looking for. And then the stretching, that was the rectus stretching that we did, making sure that we're tucking the hip underneath us. And then the foam rolling, the other thing. So that's the end of part 3, and I hope you guys enjoy that. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Thanks a lot.